The wind howled through the pines, a mournful dirge that carried the scent of resin and damp earth to the doorstep of Police Chief Eldon Trask. He stood on the warped porch of his modest station in Pine Hollow, a speck of a town nestled in the shadowed folds of the northern woods, and tugged his coat tighter against the chill of late October. The sky above was a bruised gray, heavy with the promise of rain, and the trees swayed like mourners at a funeral, their branches clawing at the heavens. Eldon was a man of 50 winters, broad-shouldered and weathered, with a face carved from granite and eyes that had seen too many secrets whispered in the dark. His graying hair was cropped close, and his uniform, though pressed, bore the faint stains of coffee and time. The phone call had come at dawn, sharp and insistent, shattering the quiet of his morning. A body, they said, found in a cabin deep in the woods, a man of note, a politician whose name danced on the tongues of the powerful in Washington, dead, slumped in a chair, the reek of decay already seeping into the timbers. Eldon cursed under his breath, knowing this was no simple matter to be brushed aside with a coroner's report and a quiet burial. And then came the second call, from a voice cold as steel and twice as unyielding. The FBI was coming. "Cooperate," the voice had commanded, leaving no room for argument. Eldon Trask was no fool. He knew the weight of such an order, and the storm it heralded. By noon, the stranger arrived. She stepped from a black sedan that gleamed like a beetle's shell against the muddy ruts of Pine Hollow's main road. Special Agent Mara Kellen of the Federal Bureau of Investigation was a woman of sharp edges and sharper eyes, her dark hair pulled back in a severe bun, her suit crisp despite the dust of travel. She carried herself with the poise of a blade, balanced and ready to strike, and her gaze swept over Eldon, like a hawk assessing prey. She was younger than he, perhaps 35, but there was an agelessness to her, a hardness forged in fires he could only guess at. "Chief Trask," she said, her voice clipped and precise, offering a hand gloved in leather. "I assume you've been briefed?" I have," Eldon replied, his own voice rough as the bark of the pines. He took her hand briefly, feeling the strength of her grip. "A dead man in a cabin, highborn, they say. Heart attack, maybe. But you're here, so I reckon it's more than that." Mara's lips twitched, not quite a smile. "We'll see. Take me to the scene." And so they went. The chief's battered truck rumbling through the forest trails, the agent silent beside him, her eyes fixed on the blur of green and brown beyond the window. The cabin lay a half-hour's drive from town, nestled in a clearing where the trees stood like sentinels, their shadows long and twisted in the fading light. It was a humble thing, built of logs, weathered to a dull gray, its roof sagging under the weight of years. Smoke no longer rose from its chimney, and the air held the stillness of death. Inside, the cabin was as Eldon had been told, small, cozy once, now a tomb. The light of the sinking sun filtered through a window of brown wooden panes, casting golden spears across the plywood floor. Dust motes danced in the beams, a silent waltz, undisturbed for weeks, or so it seemed. A counter of bright yellow hardwood stood beneath the window, a coffee mug resting atop a coaster of woven pine needles, its shadow stretching toward a phone. The phone screen was dark, its surface gleaming oddly in the light. Eldon's boots thudded against the floor as he stepped aside, letting Mara take the lead. She moved with purpose, her eyes roving over every detail, the smoldering ashes in the fireplace, the patchwork wall behind it, the mantle of darkened bricks where the strange painting teetered. It depicted two suns rising over a plain of upside-down trees, their branches clawing into the earth, mounts of sap leaping towards a purple-green sky. Eldon found it unsettling. A fever dream captured in oil, but Mara spared it only a glance before her eyes settled on the figure in the chair. Senator Harold Vane sat slumped on a gray cold seat, its patches a testament to years of use. Once a man of power, his dark brown hair now grayed to ash, his full beard drooping with his sagging skin. His gray sweater was stained coffee, wine, and something darker, and his blue sweatpants bore fresh drips from his chest. His hands clutched his sweater in a death grip, fingers rigid, toes curled against the chair's base. Bile crusted his lips, his tongue jammed back, his brown eyes wide and empty, stretching outward as if fleeing the ruin of his body. "Heart attack," Eldon muttered, crossing his arms. "That's what the boys who found him reckoned. Hunters. passing through. Said he'd been here a while. Mara knelt beside the body, her gloved hands hovering but not touching. Weeks, perhaps, she said, her tone neutral. The smell suggests it, but look at his hands, Chief. The strain, the way he's gripping himself. That's not a peaceful passing. Eldon frowned, stepping closer. You saying it's murder? I'm saying it's not clear. She rose, her eyes drifting to the counter. She froze, then crossed to it, her fingers brushing the phone's edge. Chief, look at this. He joined her, peering at the device. Dust coated the counter, the mug, the coaster, everywhere but the phone. Its surface was pristine, as if wiped clean. Eldon's gut tightened. That's queer. If he's been dead weeks, dust should have settled there too. Exactly, Mara said, her voice low. Someone's been here since he died. Someone touched this phone. The words hung heavy in the air, a thread of shadow weaving through the stillness. Eldon felt the weight of her gaze, the unspoken question. What else had been missed? The hours stretched as they combed the cabin, the light fading to a dim glow beyond the window. Mara was meticulous, her movements precise, while Eldon watched, his mind turning over the puzzle. The phone nodded him, a silent witness to some unseen hand. Who had come? Why? The senator's death had seemed a solitary end, but now it felt like the opening of a deeper tale. Mara paused by the fireplace, her eyes narrowing at the painting. She reached out, steadying it as it wobbled, then froze. Chief, help me with this. He lumbered over, and together they lifted the frame from the mantel. Behind it, there were clear blood marks caked into the brick, as if someone's head had been smashed into it. They both looked at each other, knowing there was no such wound on Vane. Eldon's breath caught. What in the blazes? The thought was ripe in Mara's head. She set the painting aside and peered up the flue, her flashlight cutting through the dark. A grunt escaped her, sharp and sudden. There's something up there. Something big. She reached in, her arms disappearing into the soot-stained maw, and then she pulled. A muffled thud echoed as she dragged a bundle down. A bundle that resolved into a man, his body stiff and blackened, his face frozen in a rictus of terror. He was shoved headfirst into the chimney, his legs bent at impossible angles, his clothes torn and smeared with ash. Eldon stumbled back, bile rising in his throat. Light preserve us. This changes everything. The second man was identified by dawn, his wallet miraculously intact in a pocket of his shredded coat. Daniel Reese, 42, former aide to Senator Vane, vanished from public life years ago. His face, though marred by decay, bore the marks of a struggle, bruises on his throat, a broken nose, blood caked in his hair. The cabin yielded more secrets under Mara's relentless search. A hidden drawer in the counter containing letters, terse and threatening, demanding money in exchange for silence. Blackmail, plain as day. Eldon sat heavily on the porch as Mara pieced it together, her voice steady despite the horror. Reese and Vane were lovers once, she said, holding a faded photo from the drawer. Two men, younger, smiling in a sunlit field. It ended badly. Reese came back years later with dirt. Maybe proof of something Vane couldn't let out. He demanded payment. Vane refused. And they fought, Eldon finished, his voice rough. Reese lost. Mara nodded. Vane killed him, strangled him, I'd wager. Given the marks, stuffing him in the chimney to hide the body. But the strain, the guilt, it broke him. He sat down, clutched his chest, and his heart gave out. Not a heart attack from age or chance. A murder. Then a suicide by despair. Eldon stared into the woods. The wind whispered through the trees. And the phone? Reese's accomplice. Maybe. Someone who knew he was here, came looking after he didn't return, touched the phone, then fled. The case closed quietly, as such things often did in Pine Hollow. The FBI took the bodies, the letters, the painting, evidence of a sordid end for a powerful man's life. Mara left as she'd come, a shadow slipping back into the world beyond the trees. Her parting words to Eldon, simple. You did well, Chief. He stood alone on the cabin's porch as dusk fell, the air cold and heavy, the woods stretched endlessly before him. Their secrets buried once more. Harold Vane and Daniel Reese were gone, their story a tangle of love and hate, woven into the timbers of this lonely place. Eldon lit a cigarette, the smoke curling into the night, and wondered what other shadows lurked in the heart of the forest. And the wind sang on, a requiem for the dead.